Hi, hello. Welcome to another episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is April the 26th, 2025. Hopefully, this episode finds you well, in good spirits, and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. It's been a good Saturday so far. We haven't done too much, but I do have plans for the day, so hopefully those go all according to plan. But we woke up, we went to the gym. Gym was good, but definitely, it was a little bit of the aftermath of lifting harder yesterday. Like I tried to lift like the same weights and was able to get them up for the most part, but just not as many reps as I wanted. And definitely was like feeling the sting a bit after. So didn't go as hard today, but still, a heavy lift day overall. We got our cardio in. Once again, though, on that same kind of energy, I kind of had to slow it up a little bit just because my ankle really wasn't taking. It was like, nope, we got to go easier today. But so it goes. Overall, I had a good session and I'm happy with it. Now, let's rewind back to Friday because I got a bit of a food corner. I got a little bit of a wish for myself granted. So a little bit of the sour part, had some plans fall through. So that was a bit of a bummer. And I was kind of left my own devices. It was rainy. It was mopey out there. I was like, well, what am I going to do? What am I going to do with my Friday night? And I said, you know what? We got that Wendy's gift card and you really, really, really want a burger. So we finally succumbed to the temptation and we went to Wendy's. So let me tell you my Wendy's order. I got a big bacon, or what is it? I think that's the Dave's Classic. That's what they call it. To me, it is always going to be the big bacon classic because that's essentially what I make it. I got the Dave's Double, add bacon, 2 pieces of bacon, and a large drink, which was a pink lemonade, which I then shifted to like a half and half, like pink lemonade Coke situation, which was really good. Then I had a small Frosty, a 4-piece spicy chicken nugget with barbecue sauce, and that was everything. But it was good. It was good. Also for like a grand total of like $18, which I mean, hey, those are the times we live in, right? That's inflation for you, baby. Trumponomics, if you will. I feel like we can start calling it that now, right? But no. Overall, the meal was like here. How can I describe it? It was beautifully mid. Like it was not amazing. It didn't change my life, didn't rock my worldview, but God, it was just everything I wanted it to be. Like it was nice just to eat a fast food burger again. I haven't had one in so long. The body remembers, and it definitely keeps the score. But no, it also wasn't spectacular either. It was one of those things where I'm like, if I ate this every single day again, or like, weekly all the time, I would get so burnt out on this. Like I would just not really want it, especially for the price. Like I think it's one thing if you're paying like $10 or less for something like that whole spread, that would be amazing. You'd be like happy to eat that, I think. But for damn near $20 for all that, it was like, I mean, okay, it was fine. But overall, I enjoyed the meal. It was good. It was yummy. It was nice to just kind of have that back in my life. Afterwards, I came home, maybe was up for about an hour or so, and then I just passed out, took another food coma nap. Gotta love the itis when it just hits in full, locks you up. But no, overall, I slept pretty good. And then, bring it back full circle. We woke up and, it was gym time. But yeah, it was a nice Friday situation. Saturday's been good to me. So yeah, let's go ahead and do our startup and get into some news. All right. Our first story comes from Al Jazeera. 5 dead, over 700 injured as powerful explosion hits Iran's Bandar Abbas. A powerful explosion and fire at Iran's largest commercial port has killed at least 5 people and injured more than 700 others, authorities say. Midrad Hazan, I'm totally butchering this. Midrad Hazanadeh, director of Hormozagan, we're going to say Zagan, province crisis management organization, provided the figures on Saturday during an interview on state television. The previous toll was 4 dead and more than 500 injured in the explosion at Shahid Rajai port, located more than 1,000 kilometers or 620 miles south of the capital, Tehran. Iranian state media or state television said initial reports indicate negligence in the storage of flammable materials on the site. On Saturday night, the state-run IRNA news agency said that the Customs Administration of Iran blamed a stockpile of hazardous goods and chemical materials stored in the port area for the blast, without elaborating. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't look like this is tied to any kind of political move or any kind of outside, nation state aggression or anything like that. So I guess you could say there's a silver lining there. But naturally, in any kind of, any of these situations, it's never good to have like a death toll, a lot of injuries, devastation. So sad in that regard. Let's see. The National Iranian Oil Products Refining and Distribution Company issued a statement saying oil facilities in the area were not affected by the blast. So that's very key for Iran and their economy and stuff like that. So just wanted to start off with that. That was some breaking news that I found while I was trawling the internet, and I was like, okay, let's make sure we cover that. Let's go ahead and move on to our next story, though, coming out of Miami Herald. Tampa woman deported to Cuba gets separated from 1-year-old and U.S. citizen husband. A Cuban woman living in Tampa who came to the United States in 2019 and is married to a U.S. citizen was abruptly detained by immigration authorities and deported to Cuba on Thursday, leaving behind her 1-year-old child. Heidi Sanchez, 44, a Hillsborough County resident, was among 82 Cuban migrants sent on a plane from Miami back to Cuba on Thursday morning. Her husband, Carlos Yunel Valle, told the Miami Herald. Her deportation has been so sudden and traumatic for their infant daughter, still breastfeeding and with ongoing health issues, that her grandmother was taking her to the hospital, he said in a phone interview on Friday. The baby is distressed and does not want to eat, Valle said. Imagine they ripped the child from her mother's arms at the immigration office. The cries of that woman in there could be heard back in Cuba, he said, speaking of his wife's desperation at being separated from her daughter. Sanchez was still wearing clothing from the detention center when her husband saw her on a video call on Thursday, where she is staying in Havana. Her abrupt return to the island is coming at a time Cubans are dealing with severe shortages of food and necessities and electrical blackouts that may extend for several days, and she doesn't have a home there. I am here at the store trying to buy things so that I can send her a package with toothbrushes, toothpaste, soap, sanitary pads, and clothes, her husband said. Their family separation nightmare started Tuesday when Sanchez was detained at her check-in appointment with Immigration and Customs Enforcement in a Tampa office. With tears in his eyes and holding their daughter, Valle pleaded for help to stop the deportation of his wife in a video he published on Facebook the following day. Last-minute efforts by Sanchez's lawyer and Tampa U.S. Representative Kathy Castor to prevent her imminent deportation were unsuccessful, he said. Let's see here. They did everything possible to remove her. Her lawyer, Miami-based attorney Claudia Quincenares, said, including not disclosing where her client was being held. She said ICE agents knew Sanchez had a 1-year-old daughter because the baby had come to the appointment with her. Quincenares said in that less than 72 hours between Sanchez's detention and her deportation to the island, she and her staff started a frantic effort to try to contact her and apply for a stay of removal, an order that would have temporarily prevented the Department of Homeland Security from deporting Sanchez on humanitarian grounds. Now, I just wanted to kind of cover the story and run through at least, a big chunk of it, just to kind of show that it's like, once again, this is just so common. It's not just, Columbia students and stuff who are speaking out for, Palestinian rights or things like that. It's not just people the administration doesn't like, or they're trying to get points in that regard. They are literally just casting this wide net and sending people out anywhere and everywhere they can. They're like, okay, sure, we don't have any real like diplomatic ties with Cuba, but we can work this out so that we can get these deportations going. Like, this is how rabid they want to do it. This is how fast that they move. And once again, I know for some people, you are never going to convince them that this is a bad thing, that they are going to be like, well, this is how it should be. She shouldn't be here. It doesn't matter that, yes, throughout multiple administrations, the rules and things have changed, and this person has tried to do the very best they could to adapt and work with those things. But sometimes the slightest miss can just put you into a whole flux, and you can never fix it, and then you're going to get deported. It's only a matter of time. Sometimes you could do everything right, and you still get deported. It's such an evil, grim process, and I wish that more people were just aware and understanding that it's like, look, we should all be people first. You know what I mean? We should all have a chance at this American dream. And that's what Sanchez was trying to do here. She had forged this whole life for herself, and it was literally just ripped away from her. And it's not just her that's happening to. It's happening to so many people, in so many ways, for so many stupid, shitty reasons. So I really wanted to highlight the story when I saw it. I really want to try to keep highlighting these stories and talking about them at least a little bit, at least providing some insight into it, because I think it's important. I think these people's lives are worth mentioning, as everyone's life is. We're all important. We all deserve a chance to be here or wherever the fuck we want to be. It's just, I know I've been in the weeds about this before, but just the idea of like saying, well, hey, you're in this place, you've crossed this borderline, so we have to treat you differently. It's just such a strange notion to me in 2025. Like, I just feel like as people, we should be just past this, but we aren't as a society. It's like, nope, you're different, and we don't want you around us. We need to get you out of here as soon as possible, unless you're providing some huge boon or benefit to us. And even then we might change our mind. Like, it's just such a weird thing. And to know that's not just American. That is all around the world. That is an international thing. And I don't know. I really hope that we step back from that as people, as we grow, as we get older, as we, churn through the generations. I really would love to see a difference in that. But, who knows? Maybe I'll be waiting a while. But anyway, let's move on to our next story. This is breaking news that just hit. I was like, wait, what? But it's been almost a building thing, so let's just go ahead and kind of crack it, get into it. From BBC, Virginia Giuffre's death leaves unanswered questions. The death of Virginia Giuffre will leave questions that are now likely to remain unanswered. Her name will always be associated with the scandals and criminality surrounding the late billionaire ex-offender Jeffrey Epstein and his circle, with Ms. Giuffre one of the most prominent among his accusers, revealing the trafficking and sexual exploitation of young women. The photo of her and Prince Andrew, taken in London in 2001, became emblematic of the royals' entanglement with Epstein and was central to his disastrous Newsnight. I think it's Newsnight. Yeah, Newsnight interview in 2019. The origins of the picture remain uncertain, but Miss Giuffre's death adds another layer to the mystery of what must have inadvertently become one of the most widely viewed photos in royal history. I think the focus on this from the picture alone is just really because it's the BBC and, they love their royals. Let's see. Epstein, who is said to have taken the photo, died in jail facing sex trafficking charges. Ghislaine Maxwell, who helped him abuse young girls and is pictured to the right of Prince Andrew and Miss Giuffre, is in prison in the U.S. I don't know why I butchered that sentence so badly. She's in prison in the U.S. Prince Andrew has stepped down from all public duties, and Virginia Giuffre, a smiling teenager in the photo, is now dead. Miss Giuffre, who was born in the United States, died by suicide at her farm in Western Australia, age 41. Her family said on Friday. They go back to talking about Prince Andrew. I kind of want to skip past that. They talk about more of the stuff. So here's what I have kind of recalled. I want to say about a month, maybe it was a few weeks ago, Giuffre had made the news because she had said she was in a bus accident. Like a bus had hit her, I believe hit her car or something to that effect. And essentially, she said it was going really fast. It just like bowled her over, did a lot of damage. She said she only had 4 days to live at that point. Now, she had continued on living. There's also like other news articles and stuff that are coming out. It was almost like rumors, if you will, from like statements from like the bus driver or whatever saying, oh, the accident wasn't that bad. Like actually she didn't take that much damage. She was actually not as bad as she said she was in the hospital. But then fast forward, but she'd also come out like she said with that statement saying, hey, she only has days to live. So like that's a bit conflicting, right? And then now, she's passed away suddenly, from, what is being stated as a suicide. And so it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, so it wasn't the 4 days and she didn't just like keel over, but then this does happen, more or less within about a month. It does feel suspicious, I would say, but I don't want to get crazy about it. I don't want to get conspiratorial. I think that is kind of the nature of everyone surrounded in this story, that it's just so hard not to do that. That being said, I'll definitely be keeping my ears and nose to the story, to the streets, see if I hear anything else about this. But obviously very sad. It's very unfortunate. Giuffre been through a bunch of shit, has a family. So, she's leaving behind, loved ones and things like that. So that's very unfortunate. It's very sad. But yeah, definitely some big breaking news that I wanted to get into. Now we have one more story that I wanted to cover, but before I get into that, I actually remembered that I needed to do a corrections and I didn't get into it at the top. I had mentioned Ukraine last episode and I said there was no casualties from the Russian strike, and I, at the time I didn't know. When I was listening to some more news and I got updated, it turns out that there was like 12 and there was also injuries as well. 12 people had died. So I did want to mention that. I do try to throw the corrections in, in the description of the episode if I remember. But I also do try to say it in the following episode whenever I get the correction. So there we go. Just mentioning that there. I know it's a bit out of nowhere, out of left field. But on that note, let's go ahead and close out with our last story. We are closing out with maybe the end, maybe the last ballad of George Santos, Kitara herself, well, himself, whatever. Anyway, let's go ahead and take our last break and we will shut it down. All right. Our last story comes from CNN. Former Representative George Santos sentenced to 87 months for federal fraud charges. Disgraced former Representative George Santos was sentenced Friday to 87 months in prison for aggravated identity theft and wire fraud charges stemming from fraudulent activity during his 2022 midterm campaign. The judge ruled he must surrender by July 25th. Santos was sobbing in the courtroom on Friday and said he betrayed the confidence entrusted in me while giving a brief statement to the judge. I cannot rewrite the past, but I can control the road ahead. I've tried my best, Santos said. New York State Department of Labor Commissioner Roberta Reardon spoke out against Santos regarding unemployment benefits he took out during COVID-19 at the sentencing, saying he had callous disregard for New Yorkers and his crimes were not victimless. U.S. District Judge Joanna Siebert also said she received one letter from someone in Santos's former district who was outraged about the fraud he committed on the voting public. Santos's defense asked for a minimum of 2-year sentence, saying in court that Santos is a 36-year-old gay man from a broken home and built an alter ego that he showed the world. Prosecutors outlined how he stole money, stole identities, and spent money on vacations and designer clothes in their claims on why the former congressman deserved the full 87-month sentence, which I believe is like 7 years and a quarter, something like that. So it's a decent amount of time to do. Maybe you get out for some good behavior a little bit early, but still, it's a good amount of time for what maybe someone would consider like, white collar or political crime. Corruption, though, all the same, right? It's fraud is fraud, right? He rose to one of the highest offices in the land on a wave of lies, said the assistant U.S. attorney Ryan Harris. He said Santos not only lied, but it was the extravagance along the way with his lies. Siebert pointed out Santos was making money from social media appearances, a documentary and podcast, and she found it incredible that he didn't open up a savings account to pay back restitution, and that he kept up with the lies and continued to blame the government. I mean, what? You think the hustle's got to stop, lady? Sorry. What restitution? No, he actually does owe for restitution $373,000. So, that's something that he needs to be keeping up with, and he's not. So, I mean, look, I don't know, maybe because I often get on people who are like, you get to a point with like some of these people who do like all these frauds and stuff, like the Sam Bankman-Frieds of the world or whatever. And like, you see people kind of showing mercy at the end when we finally get to this point, like, well, they were just kind of a dummy. Yeah, they just kind of like did the fake it till they made it thing, yada, yada. It's not so bad. But I almost find myself wanting to do that with Santos here. I don't know why. I think just because he was so like bold about it, like, and he would just tell so many outright lies, and people voted for that. They're like, you know what, go off queen, and they wanted, like, this dude became a Republican representative in New York. I don't know, like, points for that in its own way. I mean, yes, he scammed his way all the way there, but I guess there is just something so American about it. But when I cut through all that bullshit, I go, no, this is a good thing. This is totally a good thing. I'm glad he got the 7 years or whatever, because clearly he wasn't stopping. Like, I remember watching him, I want to say maybe a month or two ago, he was playing Fortnite with like a random streamer, like just talking and shit. And there's nothing wrong with that. It was definitely an interesting little event that happened. But once again, like, there's something about Santos where it's like, he's not giving up the ghost here. He's not giving up the grift. A guy like this is going to keep doing this for as long as they can. Like, this is how they get there in the space, and they keep moving in the space. So, there is something that is just so undeniably like American dream about it. And I can't funk with it. It is what it is. Like, I get it, but no, you did people dirty. You did a lot of scamming to get by. There was a lot of fraud involved. So, it's a little bit more than the faking it till you making it thing. It's like, hey, we're doing scam god shit, political scamming, but hey, it's scam all the same. So yeah, that is where we're going to close it out for today. I don't know if Santos is going to make any more waves in the future, but I mean, hey, I'll be here to talk about it if he does. But that's going to be the episode. If you'd like to help out, support the effort, I do have a Patreon, patreon.com/ZaneNews. Become a newsie today. Free ways to hit me up, zanews1@gmail.com. Feel free to follow me or the podcast on any of the socials. Excuse me. Subscribe to the YouTube. Follow on TikTok. Follow on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, whatever platform you're listening on right now. Leave a like, leave a comment. Sharing is caring. That's all ways that help out the effort, boost the algorithm, if you will. Let's see. But listening is just a cool key thing that you can do. And I love that you've done it up until right now. You're crazy. I love that. Clap it up for you. Thank you. But yes, thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks so much for being a friend. And hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love ya. Bye-bye. Mwah.